Gather round, children, as we will have a nice talk about the Ultimaker 3 and stuff I missed in the review. So, welcome everyone. So this is just a quick and dirty casual live stream. Again, as the title says, Q&A on the Ultimaker 3, because I've been seeing a few questions in the comments of the Ultimaker 3 review, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to answer them today. Someone's triggered already in chat. That is cool. So the plan is here, not more than an hour. Sorry, not more than an hour, maybe 45 minutes or something. Ultimaker 3. Let's start out with a few questions on that I found in the YouTube comments. Starting with Kelvin Witt. 3 days ago, he heard that the Ultimaker PVA is making trade-offs in water solubility versus ambient moisture resistance, more or less. So let me get you guys a view here. Obviously, you should be using the software assistance to remove filament and stuff, but whatever. So Ultimaker PVA, yes, that's it's one of the features they're advertising their PVA with, that it's less moisture sensitive so this spool's already loose, in open air than the regular PVA that you can buy. That's theoretically, this camera should focus. Why is it not? Come on. That it's more moisture resistant than the regular one you can buy just as a PVA filament, and from what I've seen so far, that is the case. This stuff has been out in the open for, I don't know, almost 2 months now. Well, not quite, more like 6 or 7 weeks. And it still feels super nice and, that's really overexposed. It still feels really nice and crisp and hard. Unlike the other PVA, which is, I think, in the dry box over there. Let me just grab that. That is just, that the one I just showed you is the Ultimaker PVA, and I have another generic brand PVA. Yeah, so this is obviously over here, a new big dry box with an already sealed box. That stuff is working out awesomely, actually. So, yep. Here we go. So there's my generic brand PVA that that's silica gel. So there's my generic brand PVA that I bought from E3D for, I think it was like $50 a good while ago. It must have been like 2 years. I've been wanting to play around with dual extrusion for that long. So that's what it looks like. Obviously, it is a completely different type of PVA. That should be in focus. So this is actually it's this PVA has looked like this since I got it, since I bought it, and it's been just as flexible too. The Ultimaker PVA, on the other hand, I just grab the end right here. This stuff is like really hard, and of course this is 3 millimeters, so it's it's going to behave a bit differently. But when it's printed, this stuff is like really brittle and stuff. The other one here, the generic brand type PVA, is much more flexible and much softer, and also much more yellow. So it is definitely a different type of PVA they're using, especially compared to like the generic ones. Let me just see if I can actually grab this one and tuck it back onto the spool. There's some pliers. Here we go. Right, there's that. What's chat been writing? Yes, I am fine. If you check out Twitter, I actually had a nice bike ride today on the mountain bike. Really cold and muddy still, but pretty nice. What the hell is wrong with chat? So many people writing stuff. All right. Good question from Mike Broom. Does PVA stick to PEI? So Prusa obviously uses the PEI sheets as a base for their heated beds. This is actually a genuine Prusa sheet. This is a PEI film with an adhesive on the back, and the Prusa used it on the bed. And filaments stick to this stuff incredibly well. Often so much that it tears the sheet apart when you try to remove the print. I've had that happen with PET. So whenever I print PET on that, I use some glue stick on here. Now the Ultimaker 3 just uses a simple glass bed, and if we can rearrange these things here, I can actually show you. So this is a simple glass bed. You've got these two clips up front. Oh, it's in focus. You've got these two clips up front, and you can just remove the entire bed like that. I think that is really nicely implemented. It's really quick and easy to take out. And what I've been using on here, which you probably can't see too well, maybe if we put it in the reflections might give it away. I've been using 3D lac on this stuff. They do include some glue stick, and glue stick does work pretty well, but during review especially, I just wanted stuff to stick. I just wanted a bulletproof experience with that. So 3D lac, I'm tripping over wires here. 3D lac it was. This stuff sticks incredibly well to everything. Even so much that if you're not careful, if you've got stuff sticking to it too well, it might tear up your glass underneath. But for me, awesome, just, no-brainer, use it, get too much adhesion every single time instead of too little. So, yeah, Sebastian is asking, will I do another improve my 3D print Q&A? Maybe. I've had two of those. I don't know. Another one would be too much. So, question from Mike DiMare: has the Ultimaker 3 fixed the wiring harness issue from the Ultimaker 2? So, the wiring would get trapped under the bed. So this is the entire wiring harness on the Ultimaker 3's bed, and it looks like it's just a simple wire loop right there. It comes out the back, goes around here, and then has a few clips. If I tilt this forward, you should be able to see it as I'm dragging up the power supply, but that's okay. You can see them just behind the glass sheet there. There's a few clips that guide the bed's wire where it needs to go. And if we actually go into System, Build Plate, Raise, you can see how that wire loop works. So far, I've not had a problem with it at all. It's always been just on the side there, out of the way. So if there's ever been an issue with the wiring loom, it's pretty definitely fixed with the Ultimaker 3. Aaron York is noting that Super Chat is enabled for this stream. Yes, I did enable Super Chat, though I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it yet. So you can... Super Chat is essentially a YouTube integrated version of StreamTip. If you've seen that before, it's the big pop-ups that come up right here, which is a service that I've been using for YouTube tips, live stream tips essentially. And YouTube is integrating a similar system into their services. The problem I'm having with it right now is they're not telling me, or they're not telling anyone how much of it they're keeping. It looks like you're sort of sending the streamer a tip. They're saying like, yeah, pay $5 to have your chat tucked to the top of the chat window for X amount of time. But that they're never saying that you are supporting the creator with that. I did ask them, they refused to tell me how much of the cut they're taking. So I don't know, we'll just have to see. If someone wants to try it out and send me a super chat tip thing, that's what YouTube's saying. You just have to try it out and look at the reporting to see how much actually you end up with. I don't know, I'm not happy with that. So, yeah, you can dissolve bleeding filament with the second extruder. What? Does the Wi-Fi work well? Kulta Jabba is asking. So the Wi-Fi functionality in the Ultimaker 3 is really basic. It's not a whole lot of functionality that you're getting. So it's not, as far as I can tell, the Ultimaker 3 is Yeah, it has to be internet. Well, no, actually, I don't think the Ultimaker 3 is actually communicating with the internet. As far as I can tell, the Ultimaker 3 is only doing local Ethernet communication. So what you can do is you can go into Cura, you can slice your part, and instead of clicking that save to, actually let me show you. Why talk about it when I can actually show you? What you can do in Cura is, slice your part. Instead of saving it to a USB drive, this thing does not take SD cards anymore. You can actually just send it to the Ultimaker 3 wirelessly through your home Wi-Fi. Mike DeMata, $1, thanks for that tip. I'll have a look in the YouTube analytics afterwards, how much of that $1 is staying with me and how much YouTube is sacking. So, would I like to, okay, screen cap, that's this button right here. That chat lines up nicely. So there's the first function. Would you like to update your current printer configuration into Cura? So right now Cura thinks there's blue PLA and generic PLA loaded in the 2 print cores. And in fact, what the printer thinks is loaded is ABS plus PVA. That's, I took out the PVA, but obviously the printer is still convinced that it has, where are my buttons? There are my buttons. The printer still believes that it's got ABS and PVA loaded, so that's what it's trying to tell Cura. And Cura will read that from the printer and display it to you. And you can either say, yes, I want to update my current Cura configuration, or no, I want to override what the printer is thinking. So yes, and it's going to pull up ABS and PVA as far as I know, if I didn't mess up, in a second. Yeah, there we go. Gray ABS and natural PVA. That's what the printer thinks is loaded. And that's the first functionality. The other one is printing over network right there. So obviously you've got the camera view with the camera right up front here. And as you can see, that has quite a bit of delay and frame rate issues right now, but that's being fixed with the new Cura version. And you can obviously also see the live temperatures more or less and see previews on how long your current print has been going and how long it will be going on for. That's interesting that the how-to camera, that the super chat is just slowly moving up. That's cool. But hey, it's more for monitoring and for starting a print. You don't get a prompt interface or like any sort of interface like control environment on Cura. You do all that through the through the display and the click wheel, but that's just how it is. And Martin Drochel is saying, yes, the Ultimaker 3 does load firmware from the internet. That is correct. That's like the one feature where I've noticed, where the Ultimaker 3 does communicate with the internet. Even if you're using the app on your phone to print something, where did I put it? There it is. So the C attack, Kraken attack, whatever it's called. Lose my cameras. There we go. This guy. Camera, how to focus. Okay, this autofocus is not working, but this guy was printed entirely through the app. I just downloaded it. I downloaded the STL onto my phone and then started the slicing process from the phone itself without ever running it through an actual slicer or a PC. And that's the other thing you can do. Ultimaker does provide a cloud slicing service so that you essentially don't need the processing power locally, at least when you're using the app. So essentially you upload, you have the STL on your phone, the app uploads it to Ultimaker's servers, and then as far as I can tell, the app downloads the finished G-code to itself and then sends it to the printer over Wi-Fi. Sounds complicated, but again, it means the printer doesn't have to communicate with the service directly. I thought I had EQ filament on a blacklist, but whatever. What overlay app is that? That's just the YouTube live chat, Mike D'Amato. That's the YouTube live chat in OBS Studio with a CSS skin on it. So it's just the actual live chat window in a skin type. So let's check back on the comments from YouTube. So Eric Cederberg is also saying, it is possible to speed up the dissolving process of PVA by using water heated to 35 degrees Celsius and water pumps to circulate the water. I think I have I have the USB water pump right here that I used in some of the time lapses. So even something as simple as this, just a small 5-volt water pump, is 1 to 3 watts. So it's a really tiny, puny pump. Just having some sort of circulation in your water bath does help the dissolving process quite a bit, and warm water does as well. The problem with warm water is it cools down. So if you're using something like the clear tank, aquarium type tank that I used, it's not going to be warm for more than, say, 15 minutes, and that's not enough to dissolve something like that beast of a support structure that you saw with the Dodo gyro print thing that Ultimaker uses in their samples. Oops. So this thing was one massive block of support material. So obviously you can't print this without supports, or probably even without soluble supports. So this was like an entire block of PVA encasing the PLA. So what kind of stepper driver does the Ultimaker 3 use? A4988. Actually, let's check that right now. That is a great question. As far as I know, so to catch up on another question that came up in chat just a second ago, so it's essentially a Raspberry Pi in here. Yes, it is essentially a Raspberry Pi in here. I did show it in the review. It's, what are those called? It's a fairly well-known single board computer manufacturer that is supplying the Linux board that's underneath this cover. And this is just, as far as I know, it's very similar to the Ultimaker 2's mainboard, but there's only one way to know for sure. I actually haven't opened this up yet, so you are witnessing a Tom's First. By the way, it's Super Bowl right now, so 2 of you are watching that. At least, I mean, in Germany we don't really care about it, but let's see, that's 2 screws right there. This one, oh, I took out the wrong one. Okay. Hold tight. While I open it up, Drew Bransby is asking, hey, is the lower layer height even practical? I don't know. So, as I think I've commented on that in the review as well. So, layer heights to 0.1 millimeters or so, in my opinion, are like the maximum you should be using. At 0.1, it's almost an invisible layer. It's almost to the point where you can't tell. Okay, I'll just leave this standoff out. It's almost at the point where you can't tell the difference between a 3D printed object with that layer height or one with an even lower layer height. So that's like the reasonable maximum, I'd say, that you should be using. And the Ultimaker profiles go down to 0.06 millimeters. And yeah, I mean that does look pretty darn good. So that's the other one. Where's my super low layer print? There it is. Obviously this is, thankfully I can manually focus. This is 0.06 millimeter layers, and obviously there's just no layers visible at all. It adds a whole lot of print time. Is this supposed to be plugged in? Oh yeah, probably up here. And it doesn't really give you that much of an advantage quality-wise. So for me, as an engineer, as a functionally minded person, I would probably not go below 0.1 millimeter layers. So drivers in here are, let me take off my glasses here. Allegro 4988. So there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you've got the 5 drivers right here. We've got X, Y, Z, left and right. So they're not calling them extruder 1 and 2. They're just calling them left and right, which I guess works. And you were here. So all in all, it looks very similar to what you'd have on the Ultimaker 2, and I guess it's just a permutation of the design, because why change the things that are working already? So yeah, for now I'm not going to put these standoffs back in because fuck life, and I mean, I can always do that later. I don't want to bore you with that, so let's get this thing back online. There we go. Okay, you probably shouldn't plug that in while it's turned on. You should probably hit the switch, turn it off, and then plug in the power cord. But again. John Smith is saying $3,000 3D printer without auto leveling. It does have auto leveling. It does have active leveling. So I don't know. It has it. Yeah. How does it, Cool the Job is asking, how does it know what material is in there? So that's actually in the review, so I'm not going to go into that much detail with that. The filament spools the Ultimaker 3 is using, you can use standard filaments. Anything that's 3 or 2.85 millimeters work as well, but the filament spools have an NFC tag embedded. Is that in focus? There we go. Do have an NFC tag embedded in the inner circle right here, and the spool mount, as we swivel this around, the spool mount also has an NFC reader. So you've got this wire harness, wire cover down here. There is the cable for the NFC reader that is physically embedded in the spool holder. So as soon as you plop a spool on, it reads it and then knows what material is loaded. Simple as that. You know, sometimes these simple solutions are the best ones. Chip on it? Right. Okay, will PVA become cheaper? Probably yes. Right now, materials like, do I still have that in the? I've got it in. Oh, actually, I do have it right here. Ha! So materials like PVA, like E3D scaffold, are still very expensive. Scaffold is also PVA based as far as I know, and it, you know, is also comparable in price to just plain PVA, which is around 50 to 100 quid per pound. So it is quite expensive. The price of PVA might drop as more manufacturers start producing it. Just, you know, the entire competition is always good for, you know, for prices essentially and for the quality of a product. Right now it is still a very niche product. It's still not something that is manufactured in the amounts that PLA is manufactured in. So it's that scale thing. I don't know how much more expensive PVA could be to, you know, resin wise, just the raw material. But looking at how much you're paying for ABS resin, you know, PLA resin, though, you know, the resin prices so far in the filaments you're buying are, you know, a fraction, a tiny, tiny fraction of what you're paying in the end. So yeah, it's usually the prices of resin per 1 kilogram are like, you know, $2 or $3, maybe a bit more for the specialty ones, and then the expensive work falls after that. So yeah, the more people start using it, it might, you know, it might just drop down in price, which would be nice. But there are also ways for using less of the PVA. You can actually choose to, do I have some PVA supports here? No. You can actually choose to only use PVA for the interface layers. So say you're supporting this back area right here that just has this overhang. So you could fill out this entire part down here with PLA, and Cure actually does that on its own if you choose it or choose that processing type. It will fill out the main area of the support material with PLA and then just print a thin interface layer that then dissolves away. So yeah, that's possible for you to, you know, as a feature for you to use less of the expensive PVA. Dual extruder tutorial, Chase McNamara, coming, working on it. John Smith is asking, layer height 0.05 and 0.02, is there a difference? So the Ultimaker 3 does not print at 0.02 by default. The smallest default layer height is 0.06. The thing is, my hair's going wild, that's the other thing. The thing is, there are many manufacturers that advertise minimum layer heights as like one of their main selling features. Say, you know, ANIT A8, I don't know what that's listed at, but a lot of Prusa i3 type machines just advertise with, you know, we can print at 0.02 millimeter layers. Ultimaker printing at 0.06. I don't know what the original Prusa advertises, but to me, minimum layer height is a total moot point. First of all, you're practically never going to use it. I made one print, this one with 0.06, and this one took like, I don't know, does it say? Well, no, I didn't write it on there, but this took probably around half a day to a day for just this tiny, tiny print. The other thing is, you know, any printer can print at those low layer heights. The question is going to be, how good is it going to look? So even if your printer can theoretically print with a z-axis resolution of those 2 or 20 microns, there is no guarantee that it's going to look good in the end too. So yeah, that's a total moot point. So that there is really no difference or no notice or no real world gain when it comes to lower advertised minimum layer heights. Whatsucker is asking, he's having a similar issue to what I was having in the unboxing, as in the parts didn't stick. So the Ultimaker 3 uses active bed leveling, where it actually presses down the, I don't want to say hot end, where it actually presses down the print cores onto the glass and then detects when the distance stops changing between the sensor and the glass, or the aluminum more precisely. And forum posts aren't all that clear on that. The simple solution was to use 3D LAC on the bed, and the other one was to update the firmware. They've drastically changed the way the active leveling works, the way it probes different points on the bed, and now, as far as I can tell, it's really reliable. Somewhere around these parts, probably up here. Yeah, so I've had a few prints before that update. So again, what I'm about to show you is not what you're gonna get. There we go. 2 prints printed in direct succession. So there we go. These are 2 prints printed from the same G code, same settings, same everything. Just, you know, one was printed, I stopped it, that was this one, and then I printed the other one, and then it came out totally differently, at least. Now the problem with this one, if you can see, use that to focus, then use that to show. I'm hoping that's sort of going to show up. Yeah, there we go. So this one was printing with the nozzle way too close to the bed, and essentially it was digging through the previous layers and, you know, just tearing it off the bed essentially. The next one right here, just perfect, you know, no issue at all. So that was the issue with the auto bed leveling before the update that came in midway through the review. So that sort of saved them. If it was like that throughout the entire time, that would have been a major point of critique. Yes, it is capacitive. Usually capacitive sensors, if you're using an absolute distance, are a bad choice because they the distance they trigger at is going to be influenced by even humidity in the room or temperature or anything. But again, because this one doesn't sense an absolute distance and triggers and then uses an offset, but it actually senses the point where the nozzle touches the bed, it's okay to use a capacitive one if it's easier for them. I don't know if they're actually sensing the glass surface. I've not looked into it. Might be worth trying out a few things. Right. Günter Loch is asking, are clones from AliExpress the same quality as the original? I don't know if that is a serious question, but well, let's just move on. That's not a Ultimaker 3 question. Simon Wilmoth is asking, Thomas, can the printhead be purchased separately to use on an Ultimaker 2 Plus clone? If so, how much including cores? No. This printhead right here is exclusive to the Ultimaker 3. As far as I know, you cannot buy it as a retrofit to the Ultimaker 2 Plus. And from what I've been reading on, let's just put that up here. So this entire printhead he's asking about, what I've been reading on the forums is, because a lot of people are asking for that to retrofit their Ultimaker 2 Plus or 2 Plus clones with this printhead with the cool swivel mechanism right there. The thing is, what Ultimaker is saying is it would be too much work to retrofit and to essentially modify the electronics of an existing Ultimaker 2 Plus to work with all the extra features you are getting in, there we go, in the Ultimaker 3. So obviously you've got the two print cores. I think the Ultimaker 2 or in 2 Plus might have a dual extrusion capable board, but having the print cores, having the, because these things have, well, I've got one out here, I don't have to rip one out. These things actually do have a, and if I do turn down the aperture, I should also compensate for exposure. These things do have a PCB with them, so, one second. These things have a PCB on them that has a tiny one-wire EEPROM, which identifies the type of print core you're using. This is an AA, and there's a BB and an AA loaded in here. Identifies the type, so the printer knows which one you're putting in there, and it also stores stuff like print times you've put into the core, etc., etc. And that's probably one of the features that would be a bit harder to retrofit with the Ultimaker 2, and also like you do have to change a few things mechanically to have the, that's going to require me to tilt the camera up, to have the auto retraction working on a different machine. So somebody was asking about that feature in particular before the stream started, so let me just show that one more time. You can actually also see it in the Ultimaker 3 announcement video. So the second or the right print core does swivel up and down, and both of these cores are spring loaded. So if I press up on the nozzle right here, this one moves up and the other one does as well. But there is a, I can remove this one, the printer is going to report a max temp error, so that's okay. These parts right here, there are, you know, if you have a print core in hand, that might look like it's super wobbly and not really constrained at all. But there is this aluminum plate, and that actually seats against, is that visible? Yeah. Let's actually see, it's against this rounded part down here. I think that might be just, there we go. Against this rounded part down here. So this actually fits into this groove where my index finger is right here. And that registers the position of the nozzle very accurately. Now, the second hot end, the first hot end is just sitting in there. It's just at a fixed height. The second hot end has this swivel mechanism. And if Ultimaker is watching right now, I know I should be doing this. But yeah, it's got this tab on the side. And as you push this tab forward, the hot end lifts up. And all it is essentially it's grabbing this upper metal shaft right there, this area right here, and it pulls the hot end up. That's all that's happening. And when the lever gets pushed back, it snaps back down. And you know, in this configuration, the reference height is the nozzle over here. And in this configuration, in this other configuration, you might think, yeah, but this one hasn't retracted up. This one has just lowered. Well, the bed just lowers a bit and compensates for that offset. And what the Ultimaker 3 does during printing to lower and raise the second nozzle is, let me just demonstrate that by hand. There's this metal plate over here where the notch fits in perfectly. So it essentially goes over here, you know, drives the print head back or forward, and you can see the nozzle retracting as I just slide the tab into the notch and push it back and forth. It's just a mechanical, lift and raise. Really nicely implemented, in my opinion. Simple and effective solution. Okay. Is it a good idea to stick your printer into print core into your live printer's electronics connectors? So I'm pretty sure the Ultimaker team has, you know, taken things like what I did right now into account and made sure that these connectors are, you know, not affected by you pulling the thing out when it's live. So you've got 5 contacts on here. And of course now we need exposure right here. Well, this is hard. The camera is mirrored, but what I'm seeing on screen is not. So you've got 5 connectors up here. And up here is actually the EEPROM, this little black thing. You've got the heater, you've got the thermistor, and you've got that one extra wire for the EEPROM. And none of those really care about being, you know, pulled out when the printer is live. Obviously, right now it's saying, okay, it's actually detected the print core again. Cool. It's telling me to calibrate the second print core. I'm just going to ignore that. Typically, it will show a min temp or max temp error as the thermistor is suddenly removed, which is a good safety feature to have enabled. But yeah, but yeah, obviously the engineering should take care of that and shouldn't be an issue. Right, and to sort of address what's going on in chat, more or less. So 2 comments that I got on the review is Audrey Robinell. Hey Tom, how does it compare to the Prusa i3 Mark II in absolute print quality and or according to the price difference? And the other, Lego Jam Train. The Ultimaker looks like a printer for people who do not want to tinker. A very professional product, but if you want to get your hands dirty, it's not your printer. And that does sort of sum it up. And that there will be a video on that entire topic soon. But it's, you know, the price difference between an ANET A8, rock bottom, cheapest as you can get it. The Prusa i3 Mark II, good value, great printer, still not an Ultimaker 2 and the Ultimaker 3, not an Ultimaker 3, and the Ultimaker 3 itself, you know, it's $200, $800, and $3,600. you might think, hey, if I buy this thing for $3,600, am I going to get twice the print quality? No. Or three, how many? Four times compared to Mark II. No, the Mark II is an excellent printer. It can print really well. And I'm sure the ANET A8, even though GearBest haven't managed to ship me one yet, even they promised like 2 months ago, still haven't gotten anything. I'm sure the ANET A8 is a printer that can print really well too, as are the TiVo machines. That's just to put that out there. I'm not saying the printer cannot print good, but just the amount of effort you're going to have to put into it for it to print well is going to be different. First of all, this is an assembled machine. This thing has Wi-Fi. This thing has print profiles that actually work for every material they're selling and for every layer height. Those are all tested. Those are all profiles that work out of the box. For example, the Black Widow didn't even come with a single print profile. That's just all things you're going to have to consider. This is a product where you have a manufacturer. If anything goes wrong, you call them up or you call up your reseller, and they're going to help you out. That's part of what you're paying. You're also funding Cura development. You're also funding, service techs that go out there and that help you with your issues. That's all something that's going into the price as well, and that's why there is a price difference other than like the noticeable what you're getting in your package from an ANET A8 to a Mark II to the Ultimaker 3, and there are even more expensive printers than the Ultimaker 3 out there. So yeah, it's if you're just looking at print quality and you care about nothing else, then I don't know, the Ultimaker 3 is probably not the machine for you, but it's about the total package. It's about professionalism. It's about, so many more factors than just a single tiny, index on a scale. So yeah, 3D printing is sort of a tinkering maker hobby. Not for everyone. There are people that actually want to use a 3D printer for 3D printing and not as a hobby. I know a few of those, and for those people, this thing would be a much, much better choice than any DIY printer. So, I mean, it's just a market. We are at that point where the machines really work, where it's not something where you have to go in and tinker. There are machines like the Ultimaker 3 that you can take out of the box and start printing and using productively. That's the keyword here. This is a machine that you can use for stuff that's going to make you money, that's going to make you a living maybe. It's going to be part of a bigger project that you actually need to succeed and don't have the time to tinker with your machine to get it working. But yeah, I don't know. Different strokes for different folks, more or less. But again, there's going to be a longer, detailed discussion on the topic, just not right now. Right. Think a Little has asked, Q2's non-Ultimaker printer support for USB printers sort of turned me off. And Jonas Bandier is saying, can you still make your own printer profiles in Cura like print error? What will the Ultimaker? Yeah. So Cura 2, I called it out in the review as Dave Brom, the main developer behind Cura, or at least the most visible one, definitely making Cura 2 great again, and I think they really pulled it off. Cura 2 is just a great slicer. The problem when it came out, when it was first announced, obviously 2 as being a successor to the 15.4 etc. Series of Cura, didn't have support for custom printers, and originally they weren't planning on adding that because they were saying, okay, if you want to use a printer with Cura, ask the manufacturer to provide us with a config file for your machine. We're going to integrate it into Cura. You're just going to be able to point in or to click, choose your machine, and you won't have to go in and configure your own stuff. But the problem was creating that config file was pretty involved, to say the least. And they've now changed it. There is now a single or simple config option for custom printers in Cura 2, which I like. And there are even a few manufacturers that are providing you with importable print profiles for Cura 2. But you still have to keep in mind it's Ultimaker that's paying for the Cura 2 development. It's it's a company that's paying for a product, and they are making it available for free for everyone. It's not as much of a community project like Slick 3R, for example, is. So if Ultimaker decides to leave a functionality out, I mean, the software is still open source, you can still fork it, but like the main Ultimaker version of Cura is going to be what Ultimaker needs. And that's why Ultimaker Cura 2 has such a strong focus on dual extrusion and on the Ultimaker machines. That's the machines that are the most, the most well integrated into Cura, and for the time being, that's going to stay that way because, again, it's a project from Ultimaker. Right. Dual extrude is still locked away from the interface. What? Can you not do dual extrusion with custom printers? I'll have to look into that. I'm pretty sure you can enable dual extrusion for any printer. Maybe not through the interface, but I definitely guess it's something you can do through the config files. Right. John Thor. Sorry, I'm not going to pronounce your last name. I'm only going to butcher it. Is Ultimaker moving away from open source hardware with the Ultimaker 3? Yeah, but I do have an opinion on that. Let's start with the facts first. So the Ultimaker 2 and 2 Plus designs were released as open source hardware that is Creative Commons something non-commercial, which doesn't really fit the open source definition anyways, but as far as I know, hardware isn't covered by copyright. So unless they've got a patent, which I don't think Ultimaker does, pretty much anyone can clone it. It's more about the drawings and making it easier for people to modify and obviously make their own products based on those. So when they released those files, that was 6 months after the printer's release, essentially. With this machine, it's going to be 12 months. Saying there's more documentation to be done on the print cores, the tool head, the new Linux board, etc. I'm not sure about that. I mean, they somehow managed to make this machine. But again, it's going to be 12 months until this design is released under a Creative Commons non-commercial license, which essentially means you can't really use it as a truly open source project anyway. So, yeah, Make Modify is putting it nicely, more open source than MakerBot. Definitely. Yeah, so that's the facts. The opinion part here is that machine designs sort of don't matter anymore because the machine is literally, the physical machine is like one of the simplest things you can do right now. You can give someone, you can give a junior engineer the task to, hey, design me a 3-axis motion system, put an E3D-V6 on there, and he's going to make you a tremendously great, is that even a word? He's going to design you a great 3D printer. It's not about the hardware design anymore. It's more about how you configure the software, how you configure your slicer, how you configure everything to work together. And it's about tiny, tiny details that turn your printer from something that, might look great and might sort of move around, and something that is really nice to use and accessible and reliable. And that's one of the main differences between, genuine products, E3D-V6, Titan extruder, Ultimaker 2, and their AliExpress equivalents of the E3D-V6 J-head, of the Titan extruder and the Jenny printer series. It might look like the same thing, but it's tiny, tiny details. So for the most part, hardware files aren't that important to cloning a machine anymore. It's more about, details again. And what was my other point going to be? Yeah, whether or not you release them sort of doesn't matter anyways when it comes to cloners, at least. As we've seen with the E3D Titan extruder, that was a project where E3D explicitly said, okay, we're not releasing the files for that. And like 4 weeks later, you were able to buy a really shoddy clone. It wasn't really well made, but you were able to buy an E3D Titan clone on AliExpress for a pretty high cost, but still cheaper than the original one. It's not keeping cloners from, copying your product. So I don't really see a downside to publishing files other than, making it harder for people to modify and to base their modifications of a printer on the hardware designs. But well, that's my point of view. That's my opinion. Make and Modify saying WorldSpot might be the most open source printer company. They definitely are. They very much are the most open source company. Mm-hmm. Right. Let's see if I've got. Yeah. So 2 more before I'm calling it a day here. Julian Goes Pro has asked. Julian Goes Pro had asked on the review video, what needs to change about this machine before it gets the Tom Approved badge. It's mostly, well, it's not really details that I could point out here. It's more of a overall package. Yes, the Ultimaker 3 is a great printer and it's going to get upgrades, updates to make it even better, but it's like the overall feeling to it. It feels like there are a lot of great ideas and there's a lot of great concepts in here, but it could have used maybe 3 months more in just the development stage, just getting everything right. As I've pointed out, it feels like it's a bit rushed. If they fix those things, like Wi-Fi working super reliably and just spot on, Markforged has done an awesome job with that, by the way. They've been by far my favorite Wi-Fi solution. Wi-Fi solution yet. If they fix that, if they maybe make the filament loading and toolhead loading procedures a bit more efficient, a bit quicker, that would be appreciated as well. It's just, I can't really put my finger on 2 or 3 specific things that I still feel like they need to be fixed. It's something that has to be, it's an overall package. It's just going to take a bit more time for this thing to be, top of the line, really fully worthy of a universal recommendation, especially at the price. I mean, 3,600 money units wherever you buy it is not cheap, and I do expect quite a bit of quality for that sort of money. Yeah, and the last one, Adam Bolton asking, why would anyone buy this for the same price as a Form 2? And that does tie into the same thing as why would anyone buy this thing when you could buy, how many? 15, 16, more, 18, $200 AliExpress Prusa kits. I mean, it's sort of ridiculous, isn't it? 18 kits, 18 3D print, supposedly functional 3D printers versus one Ultimaker 3. Why would you do that? Well, because it's a different audience. There are people that will want an Ultimaker 3 because they don't care about the cost and they need a functional polymer, a thermopolymer, thermoplastic, and want the dual extrusion and sort of want this experience. Form 2, not used one yet. From what I'm hearing, it's a great printer. It's got great detail and everything, but it's a different process, so it will have a different audience that it caters to, and that's just the same thing with this versus, well, that's the question essentially. The Ultimaker 3 does cater towards a different, maybe not audience, but definitely a different use case than the Form 2. And yes, Simone is pointing out the resin for the Form 2 is quite expensive. That is true. You can still feed this thing with $20 per kilogram PLA, and it just prints perfectly fine. Yeah, 20 fabricator minis. Right, so that is what that's what I've got to say on the Ultimaker 3 so far. And unless you've got any more questions, I know that there's going to be a ton there to keep the live stream going. Unless you've got any more questions, I think I'm going to call it a day and play some Overwatch right now. So yeah, Form 2, they've got in touch with me, so there might be a review in the next few months of the Form 2. That's one thing. Actually, just to show that off. Now, obviously, today's live stream was more or less. Oh, holy crap! Okay, that doesn't hold up. Today's live stream was more or less a spontaneous idea thing of, yeah, let's do something. Let's answer a few questions. Next week's live stream is going to be the TiVo Little Monster Delta Assembly. So that's the package. Actually, let me give you a sense of scale right here. This is a right here. I'm like I don't know how many feet, but it's like up to here for me. So TiVo Little Monster package. It's quite a thing. That's going to be assembled next week. I've had TiVo assure me on this one that this is an actual finished product, something that you'd call a finished product and not a beta product. It's going to be interesting. As always, I'm going to keep an open mind towards this. They have admitted that the Black Widow they sent out to me and a few other people was maybe not quite as finished as they would have liked it to be. But yeah, supposedly this is a much more finished printer, and we're going to build that live next weekend. So I guess it's going to be a short stream because they're saying you can assemble it in 1 or 2 hours. We'll see. Anyways, okay, two more good questions on the Ultimaker 3, just to quickly get those out there. Am I happy with this machine? Would I feel it reliable for a small business? Yes, if any machine that I would recommend for actual productive use, for business use, it would be the Ultimaker 3. I would fully recommend it for that purpose. It's probably one of the most professional FDM 3D printers you can buy right now. And for that, I mean, it works great. It prints great. It's expensive, yeah, but again, use cases. And the other one, resins, 10-hour, I don't know, lost it. Whatever. How much does the filament cost? You can check that out on the Ultimaker 3 or the resellers pages. And yes, you can use non-Ultimaker filament for whatever price you buy it. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned on YouTube for regular content. I've got a few things lined up for next week. And yeah, if you enjoyed this, what is it? Check out the Patreon campaign. Use the affiliate links in the video description. Get subscribed. Like the stream. What else? I don't know. But have a great day. I don't know if it's Super Bowl time already. If you're watching that and you think it's something worth your time, enjoy. I'm not judging you. And yeah, have a nice evening. See ya. Let's see when I can actually stop this thing without the stream cutting off mid-sentence. Let's see. This should be good. Bye-bye.